before you make decisions, look at your KPIs, because like my friend, he cut his mailing and he looked back and it was a huge ROI. Now he's got to wait 6 months to see if he can replicate it again to ramp it back up. It's like, look at your numbers, give it the time, and then make decisions not based on what feels good. Do what feels good in your hobby time, and then focus and do the not fun stuff in the business, like looking at numbers. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Felipe Bossans. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Great to be here.
Hey, great to be here, too. I know you were telling me right before we started, because I was asking you to make sure I pronounce your last name right. Everyone in your company calls you Boss, right?
That's my nickname, short for my last name, so I kind of like learned to live with it.
Yeah, can you tell everyone what you're telling me? Like, you don't really like that name as much.
Yeah, because people quit bosses and they follow leaders. So I rather, the second.
I hear you. I'm with you too. Yeah, leading is different than being a boss.
That's right. That's right, brother.
All right, cool, man. So how is it working with a business partner?
I mean, for us, it's a pretty unique situation because we've been friends since high school. I know Jesus since, 1999. We went to high school together and we've been friends forever. And we always toss around the idea of doing a business together. He has a background in, had up a couple of startups in South America. Then he exited, and I have a background in I come from the corporate America, like call centers, things like that. And I would say that the biggest thing in working with a business partner is to making sure that the skills that you bring to the table are complementary to the ones that your partner brings to the table. So if you're really good on the sales side, let's say a Maverick, a Captain, people like that in Predictive Index, try to partner up with somebody that has more attention to detail. So and so you can leverage each other's skills. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. What's your Predictive Index?
I'm a 3 Sigma Maverick.
I'm a Captain.
Good for you, man. You're at least you're in the sanity check. You're a little bit more. You're better off.
The weird thing is too, Predictive Index is interesting because I think it shows more like what you like to do. And then you're right. If you know what you're really good at, find the person that's opposite of what you're good at. Like, find a person that's good at what you suck at, basically.
I mean, for us, Predictive Index is one of the tools that we use for assessing candidates and even ourselves. I was actually listening to one of your episodes, the one that you did with Austin, when he did the implementation for us, like Sharper. I mean, while Predictive Index is a good tool, you have to use others. Like for example, you have Myers-Briggs, which is great. We use that in our recruiting process. And also one thing that we see a lot of value, and when you stack it together on top of these other two, on top of Predictive Index and the Myers-Briggs, is the Working Genius. The Working Genius assessment, because it's more like a productivity tool. So it helps you make way, way better hiring decisions. Once you have those three, you're rarely go wrong if a candidate, checks all 3 boxes.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting, which is a little off topic what we're going to talk about here, but it is interesting with the hiring the right people or wrong person for a seat in your business, because if you get that wrong person in there, it costs so much time. I mean, obviously it costs you the money, it costs you the time, the sanity, and then the loss of business that you would if you spent that extra effort or did the proper tools or thought it through or did the extra couple interviews of getting that right person.
That's right. Do you see what my t-shirt says?
Data plus feelings.
Data's greater than feelings, because
that is greater. Okay. Yeah, it is 100%.
I mean, of course, we apply it. We live and die by that. Like in the service that we provide to our clients, but also in every decision that we make. And like you said, like hiring, it's so important to have the right talent and the right talent for the job that you want them to do.
You know what? I like that. Data is greater than feelings. Like so I'll tell you a little story. I used to do my own property management. And I would rent to people based on feelings, and I sucked. I got burned every single time. And then once I put a property manager in place and just started looking at the numbers, like their KPIs, it got better. So it's like, yeah, take the feelings out of the decisions and just focus on the numbers and the data
Exactly.
in different areas other than just mailers and everything too, like all areas.
It applies to everything that, like making data informed decisions and being able to find the 80-20 in everything that you do, like the 20% that is going to give you the 80% output. It's beautiful. We love, trying to apply that into everything we do.
So interesting. I like the 80-20 too, because you like that so much. You got it in your name.
Yeah. We're kind of like, we're known like the 80-20 guys. So it's okay. We love it.
That's cool. So let's talk about, what are you seeing working in the industry right now? Actually, let me even take a step back on that, because that's a pretty big question. So what you do, you have data, and then you have the piece that you actually mail out. So let's talk about the data first. What are you seeing that's working, not working? Like, what can you talk about on the data side?
I mean, on the data side, and this is something that we always tell our clients, there's only so much that you can control. And the data, as far as like when it comes to finding and now we're talking marketing, like finding the right list, what's going to be the magic list that is going to give me the best return on my investment. What we always try to like remind everybody is that there's no magic. If you want to find one magic list, it's going to be probably foreclosure, but it's not scalable. You cannot build a, multi-million-dollar wholesaling or fix and flip operation just with your NODs or what's his name, the list pendants.
And you're saying that because just the list isn't going to be big enough. Like, you're going to tap it out.
Yeah, you're going to tap it out, and there's a lot of competition. It's public record, So one thing, and this is from us, like what we do, like with the predictive model, there's about 136 data points that get processed. Like they get updated, some of them on a daily basis, weekly, monthly. But the data is only 30% of the equation. Like 50%, it's the strategy. It's actually what you're going to do with that data. Like, for example, are you going to call? Are you going to text? Are you going to send a Facebook outreach? Are you even going to door knock, depending on the urgency of when they're looking to sell? So the strategy is a big part. And of course, one of our guys in the team, he always says, the right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. So you gotta be super careful with like just to give you an example, in the direct mail, which is what we're seeing, that it's out of all outbound channels, what's working the best now. It's what piece are you using? How often are you mailing? You can have a premium data there's a couple providers out there that covers 30%. 50% is going to be covered by the strategy, like what you do with it. And then the rest of it, the 20% is the tactics. It's like, how good are you are converting them? Like, how does your process look like after a lead comes in? How are you going to be converting them? So for us is that we always try to show everybody like everything under the hood, the good, the bad, the ugly of data, like what's working, as opposed to just running ads on social media saying, oh, this is the best performing channel in the universe, and like it has like 100x ROI. Yeah, it might have it for one client, it might have it in one market for one investor, but actually, even the people that know the most, you're always challenging assumptions. You're always looking for, like validation of like, okay, does this marketing channel work? Like, does this data point, is it going to be something that is going to perform across all markets, across all channels? So that's where kind of like what we do.
Yeah, and you know what? Mail's interesting too. I was just talking with a buddy, and he was doing mail, and he did it for, I don't know, gave like a 90-day test or something, and he paused. And now he's looking back like 8 months later. He's like, I had a 10x, which most people don't get a 10x return, but he's like, he had a couple big deals. He's like, I had a huge return on that, but being like he was short thinking, with 90 days, most people think it's at least somewhat of a test. Looking back, he's like, geez, man, I should have never killed that. Which is just something a little bit off topic there on what you're talking about, but it's like interesting on the different percentages you're saying, like what you do with everything.
Yeah, it's totally related, because I think that the one like sin that we make as investors, and because we've talked about this a little bit offline, the barrier of entry into wholesaling, into real estate investing is very low. So a lot of the people that come in to this industry, not everybody, like not the ones that succeed over time, but there's a lot of like get rich quick type of mentality. And when you're doing marketing at a scale, you're no longer running a real estate business. You're running a sales and marketing business, and real estate happens to be the widget for it. So you got to be mindful that any marketing channel campaign or, like whatever you're going to do, it's a process. It's something that even in 90 days, you might not have enough data to make a decision of saying, hey, does this channel work? Does this channel doesn't work? So we always recommend that whatever marketing channel you're committing to, whether it's pay per lead, PPC, or the outbound channels that our data pretty much deals with, which is direct mail, cold calling, and SMS, to give it at least 6 months. Because once you have 6 months of data, you can start tracking things like, okay, what's my cash conversion cycle? What's my return on ad spend? What's my contact to contract rate, which is super important. Like my partner, actually, Jesus, presented on this on one of the masterminds that we're part of, that we're both part of the Collective Genius. And he presented on a concept that we came up with, which we call the RPP, or revenue per parcel, which in a nutshell, of course, and again, we're going to go ahead and give you guys a link so they can download a special report that we can put together for your guests. But the concept of the revenue per parcel is this. Let's say I have 2 zip codes, zip code 1, zip code 2. And when we talk parcels, it's like properties, just properties. Zip code has 10,000 properties. Zip code 2 has 20,000 properties. You following me?
Yep.
Okay. Then let's say we look back at the data the last 2 years. I've been operating and doing marketing, sending letters, cold calling, doing pay-per leads, whatever, into these 2 zip codes. And on both of them, I made $100,000 in revenue. So when you're making data-informed decisions, which one you're going to double down on the zip code that has 10,000 parcels or the one that has 20,000 parcels?
Yeah, the one you get the better return, because you're saying the 20,000, it's 50% lower return because there's double the property. So you're going to send double the mailers.
Yes, exactly. So you're having to do double the marketing. So your marketing budget has to be double to yield the same. So those are the kind of things that you have to be looking at. But when you're not committed and you're saying, after 30, 60, 90 days, all this stuff doesn't work. I haven't got a single deal from that zip code, or I haven't got a single deal from that market or that marketing channel. Then what ends up happening is that you're missing out on a ton of opportunity. And then this is a mistake that we make as not only as real estate investors, as entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's like, think about as you're running a marathon, and the marathon is like 26.2 miles. You're a mile 10 and you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm going to go and run this other marathon. And then you start from zero. So it's a roller coaster.
That's so true. And you know what? What other industry, like whatever, I'm in a group of real estate investors, everybody's a captain or maverick.
Oh yeah.
From the predictive index, which by population is a very low percentage of people that are captains and mavericks. But in the real estate space, we're dealing with hustlers. Like, we're all hustle. We're always we're thinkers, things like that. So it's like, it's hard to be disciplined to stick with something because we always think there's something else better. So it's like, okay, this is working, but what if that works better? You know what I mean? So that's one of the struggles in this space. So anyone listening too, like, think about, before you make decisions, look at your KPIs, because I see people like my friend, he cut his mailing and he looked back and it was a huge ROI. Now he's going to wait 6 months to see if he can replicate it again to ramp it back up. It's like, look at your numbers, give it the time, and then make decisions not based on what feels good. Do what feels good in your hobby time.
Yeah.
And then focus and do the not fun stuff in the business, like looking at numbers.
You were brave enough to share your body transformation when you posted that on social media, like, like the weight loss journey that you did and all that.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like, let's say, like you did it consistently for 6 months and you were great at it. And then you just all of a sudden you started like falling off the wagon and just not adhering to those habits that got you there. It's super tough to go back. Getting that momentum, it's one of the biggest challenges. And that's when people quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So that's something everyone listening can keep in mind. What would you say about like balancing marketing methods? Because I know you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to balance, but what are you guys seeing? What are you seeing with your clients? Like, how are they balancing in doing that?
Yeah, so we're fortunate enough to work with the top investors in their markets, and 10 out of 10 of them, what they all have in common is they have a healthy balance between inbound and outbound marketing channels. And there's always, of course, going to be one channel that it's outperforming the rest. That's the 80/20, but they're committed and they're still consistently doing. So for example, the ones that they're crushing it in direct mail, that's where they allocate most of their budget, but they also have a significant part of their budget for things like PPL or PPC, things that fill the gaps in between those marketing channels. And that's for us is what we're seeing is that like the investors that are doing the best on their marketing are doing both outbound and inbound.
Right. And they kind of work together too. Because, for example, say mailers and digital, for example, if you send somebody a mailer and they talk to you, they're most likely going to Google your name before doing anything. And if you don't have Google pay-per-click going, at least bidding on your brand name, somebody else may steal your business. Because you just directed them to Google. They click someone else's name thinking it's your name, and they fill out their form, and then you're screwed. Because it's like, what do? You know?
You got it. It's exactly it. Like, and also that creates a challenge for like whoever, whether you're running it through an agency or if you have an in-house marketing person. One challenge when you're operating at a scale, you're consistently getting, 3, 6, 9 deals or more per month, and then even more. It's lead attribution. Because somebody, for example, click on your Facebook ad, but then they didn't want to fill the form, they Googled you up, or they saw a TV commercial. They want to, validation, and they just go on social. And so as long as you're committed to having that strong presence across all the channels, and of course, if you're good at conversion, because lead generation is one thing, lead conversion, it's of course the other. It's like the yin and the yang. Then you're talking about scaling a wholesale or a real estate operation channel.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell people too, there's only 2 reasons you'll fail in this space. It's either your leads suck or your process sucks. Because you're right. You can have the best leads and someone calls you and you don't answer the phone and they don't leave a voicemail and you just wasted all that money. You're spending like how much money? You send 100 pieces of mail. I don't know what the conversion rate is, but say it's 1% to get a call. You send 100 pieces. You spend all that money for one phone call and it goes to voicemail. It's like, that's a process thing. It's like you need to have your process the whole way down to the right data, the right mailer, to everything. To your process is what happens when they call, to meeting them, and then track all those KPIs.
That brings it to one rule, because one thing that for us is like our data pairs really well with outbound marketing channels, where you can really control the most. And today, those, again, by far the one that outperforming the rest, and it's a trend that we're seeing. It's direct mail versus cold calling and SMS, because there's been a lot of regulation changes, a lot of things that are affecting the landscape. But direct mail, it's like a time tested channel. So one thing that we use is it's 3 key numbers that we always remind anybody that it's going to either do direct mail in-house and do it themselves, or they do it with a direct mail company. It's 95, 5, 24. 95, 5, 24. Here's how it goes. 95 means 95% or more of your phone calls that come in from direct mail have to be answered live, no matter what. Even if, you set up call rail or you set up whatever answering system in your CRM that you have, but you have to make sure that 24/7, 95% or more of your calls are answered live. Ideally, because like if you look at it, they have to be answered we call it by the order of skills. Typically, your top performer or whatever, however you're just doing the lead distribution, but they have to be answered live, because these are people that they're calling for.
You mean not a $4 VA?
Oh, man, this is going to be controversial.
I'm joking with you, but
I'm going to be controversial here. But like, it's like, the thing is, like you said, like with response rates nationwide being across every chat, like across markets being about on average 1/4 of 1%. So it's 1/4 of a point. So every call really counts. So that's 95. The 5 is that if you do miss a call, you have to call them back within 5 minutes or less. No matter what, somebody has to call them back. And the 24 is that we recommend that you schedule an appointment within those same 24 hours or less. And that's how we're seeing that the people that live and die by those rules, they're the ones pulling 9x return on ad spend in direct mail, which it's way higher than nationwide average of about 3x.
I agree with everything you're saying there too. It's speed. Like, you have to be fast. This is a game. You don't have to be fast for the people that aren't motivated, but the people that have a big problem that are going to be the best deal, you got to be quick for them because they want to sell yesterday. That's why it's a good deal.
Exactly. We see that there's an 80-20 in everything. So like, let's say the 80-20 here, it's 10% of people, they're never going to sell the house to you. They're just not. You're not going to click with them. They're going to sell to somebody else, or they're just simply, they're miserable human beings, and they will just call you to make your life hard. Then there's another 10% that you would do deals with them, but sometimes those deals are not going to happen because of your skills. They're going to have in spite of your skills. It's like they were a laydown. They were just, and there's another huge 80% that can be swayed one way or another. And that's where, like you said, you have to have the right leads and the right process, because otherwise you're going to suck.
I agree with that. So let me ask you this. What's the best way? Because you guys help investors with this stuff. Like, you're basically turnkey, right?
It's on the data side and the strategy side, because we used to do the outreach for clients, and at some point we sent over 2 billion calls and messages. We know about the cadences.
Right. Now you guys handle the mailers too, right?
Yep. We actually invested in and partner up with a done for you mail service called DM Force. And, Jerry and his team, they're amazing. They have a background in data science as well. So at least for the direct mail side of things, which is the channel that it's outperforming the rest in 2024, we're seeing that the way that they are able to grab our data and pair it with the mailers, the campaigns, and the way they're tracking it, it's how we're seeing, for example, and these are average nationwide numbers, where it's about 8 to 10,000 mailers a contract, like pieces of mail per contract. They're able to drop it down to as low as 6,000 pieces per contract for some investors. But that's granted. You have to have the right leads, like you said, and the right process to attract those leads.
That's right. Yeah, you send a mailer to someone that just bought their house a year ago. Not going to be real good. Or
you're doubling down on somebody that just, it's not as motivated, and you shouldn't be investing so many marketing dollars in somebody that it's, for example, using, the data points, somebody that is just an absentee owner. Like, you're an absentee owner and you have a very unique investing model, because you invest in, like, you own doors in one zip code. And I'm guessing you probably get a ton of mailers by investors.
You know what? The mailers have died down recently. I was actually just noticing I don't get as many mailers as I used to. I must be on a different list or something.
Yeah, they're probably going to be cold calling or texting you, maybe. But
yeah, I think a lot of the newer, I was just talking with someone too. I think a lot of the newer investors that got into the space are finding it hard to compete. And I think a lot of the newer investors are dropping out also.
Oh, 100%. That is, talk about trends. This is like very like Darwin style survival of the fittest. Like, right now, with all the everything going on in technology, AI, and big institutional players coming in, residential, including Amazon, there probably going to be a shakedown, and where the smaller players are going to keep, getting weeded out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the next 6 years are going to be interesting. That's for sure.
It is. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
I'm easy to reach. You guys can go on our website, www.8020rei.com, and there's a link there where you can book a discovery call, and we'll be happy to have you.
Nice, excellent. What's your top book you'd recommend?
Ooh, top book I recommend. There's a bunch of them. You gotta give me more than one.
Just in general, top one. If you're like, This is my number one book I recommend to people.
Okay, so there's two. I'm actually gonna digress and I'm gonna give you two. For
Okay.
One, it's called How Leadership Actually Works by Larry Yach. So if you want to go from 0 to 100 in business and life, that's definitely going to be, it's a must have. And the other one, it's The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Okay. I haven't read either of them. I'm going to have to check them out. They sound good.
They are by far the best nonfiction books you're ever going to read.
Nice.
It's a night and day difference.
All right. I like it. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Loved it.
Good stuff.
Take care.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. We have Felipe's website in the show notes. If you're an investor looking to do mail, or if you're already doing mail and you're looking to get a better ROI, hit them up. Everyone, thanks for listening. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you guys.